I hereby introduce to you Mr. Michael Veazey.
This program is brought to you by the Amazing FBA Mentoring Program. The mentoring program is there for you whether you are just starting out or you have an existing product and you want to add another product, or you want to scale up from a few £1,000s or dollars per month up into the sort of $25,000 a month or so mark, at which point then I would probably hand you over to the 10K Collective Mastermind if you're in the UK. Is it for you if you're outside of the UK? Absolutely. I've got an American client, a British client, weirdly, but who's in Australia. I've got an Australian client in London. I've worked with people in Poland and in Ireland. So it's pretty international. This works for everybody because everyone has similar issues. If you're selling in America, if you're selling in the UK or Europe, or you're planning to sell in UK, Europe or America, I've sold in all those marketplaces and coached people and all that. So all of those people will find that this is a very, very helpful program for them. Why one-to-one mentoring? It's pretty simple, really, because isolation is a dream killer. Trying to learn something just from the raw fire hose of YouTube and podcasts and Facebook groups is going to drive you nuts. But even if you've got the structured work of a course, which I definitely would recommend. I did that myself and I work with people with my course now. I still think it's really, there's no substitute for being able to use somebody as a sounding board, and learning from somebody who's been there before can help you deal with the head trash and have clear, simple processes and hold you accountable to them. So if that sounds attractive to you, guess what? We've got an amazing deal. I very, very rarely reduce the price of my mentoring because I don't want to devalue it in the marketplace, but I'm doing it because I neglected my marketing before Christmas with the PLP, the private level process course I was creating. And I've got a tax bill coming up because I've had a successful year, but that unfortunately means I owe the government a lot of tax. So for those reasons, I need to get a cash influx. So I'm willing to lower my prices for the next 3 or 4 people. After that, it goes back to standard prices, and I will indeed put them up in future as I have done in the past. So if you're interested in exploring that, it's application only. I'm not going to hard sell you into anything. If it's not right for you, we won't work together. But many, many people have found it very helpful. If you want to find out more about that and see some of the testimonials from the happy people that I've worked with, amazingfba.com/mentoring, mentoring. Thank you so much for listening. Now on with the show. Ladles and jelly spoons, this is your host, Michael Veazey. Welcome to Amazing FBA Podcast, somewhere north of 300 episodes, and we're still here. Delighted today to welcome back an old friend of the podcast, an old friend of me personally, which is Danny McMillan, who is an Amazon seller of several years' experience, host of Seller Sessions podcast, and a public speaker who's becoming very, very well known on the circuit of serious speakers. Also soon to be a host of a major UK conference in June this year, which sounds like a whole new level of pain to organise for Danny, but fantastic for those of us who are going, which includes myself. So Danny, welcome to the show. Welcome back, I should say. How are you doing?
What a wonderful intro. Thank you for having me back.
My pleasure. It's always great to have somebody back who's got so much to offer. So we're going to talk about brand analytics, so diving in there. First of all, what is brand analytics?
So brand analytics is a tool that Amazon's most recently provided. You are required to have brand registry. It started off in the US and they started to roll it out to different territories, including the EU. And now that you can find it directly inside of your Amazon account, and you can just access the page straight from there. Whereas before it was on a URL that people were sharing around, but now it's inserted. If you give me 1 second, I'll tell you exactly what it's listed under here. You've got payments, and we're talking about UK here. You've got payments, Amazon Selling Coach, and below that you can access brand analytics if you do have, as we said, brand registry 2.0.
So it's under reports, payments, Amazon Selling Coach, right?
Yeah, no, what it is, it's under the reports, and as you scroll down, you go past payments, Amazon Selling Coach. The third one in that list in the report menu is brand analytics.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of us won't have seen this because there are certain requirements on there to get this in the first place. So what do we need to do to get this wonderful data? Because obviously analytics of any kind is important. But before we get into that, what information do we actually get in that?
Well, what you get in there is, which we'll go in depth on, we get search frequency, we can do reverse ASIN. I'll talk through about how you can do seasonal product research. You can look at search frequency in different ranges, and you can understand the click share and the conversion share. Again, they're things that I'll talk about as we get through the podcast.
Okay, so some sort of slightly obscure sounding metrics, but are they going to be very helpful? Well, you'll explain how that is.
That's what I'm going to do. What I'll do is I'll relate it back to the metrics that we generally understand, because it is a little bit tricky to understand. But as I walk through the steps with you, it'll be more clearer as we talk it through what click share is and stuff like that, and the difference between that and conversion share and conversion rate and things like that, because sometimes Amazon don't do an amazing job of explaining these metrics, so it may be a bit tricky. So hopefully I can try and undo some of that for you.
Excellent. Well, I have to say also that if we look at the economics of Amazon as a business, they're under a certain amount of pressure from their shoulders to finally make a profit after mere 25 years or whatever it is. And one of the things that makes them profit, obviously, is the whole advertising side. So I don't think it's really in their interest to explain things to us clearly, which is probably why they don't. That's a whole different story. But one of the things I would say to anyone who's newish to Amazon is listening, because we have a variety of experience of people listening, is don't assume that Amazon is showing you what you need to know. I would assume the opposite. So, which is why brand registry, brand analytics, is so important.
I'd like to back up your point there, and more of a theory rather than confirmation. From my understanding, the advertising revenue grew from 2 to 10 billion. You need to check those numbers online, but I think it was like a tremendous jump. Then we've got to look at the access of data that Amazon provides us, and then you've got to look at the murmurings, and you've read online about things like antitrust because of the size of Amazon. And the one in particular, if we take into play what's going on in India. Now, in India, they didn't like the fact that Amazon would like to sell their own products like Amazon Basics and stuff. And so I think part of this, and what the general consensus is from the people I've spoken to, brand analytics has been released almost to say, look, we're trying to create a level playing field. We're giving data back to our customers so they can comfortably use this information. The second theory beyond the top of that is that they now have got AMG, Amazon Marketing Group. So they're trying to attract like the big high street brands in the US, Madison Avenue kind of brands, taking away the TV budgets, etc., where people want to spend 30, 40, 50K a month on advertising, top of the funnel, not just like on-site, but external traffic coming in. And providing a new level and a new wave of data there is going to be a bit easier, because if you imagine, you compare the reporting that you get in Seller Central to, say, reports from Google AdWords for their display network and obviously their PPC normal search network, and then you look at advertising on Facebook and the depth and the density of the results that you get there in terms of reporting. I think these are the baby steps that Amazon has started to take now. By providing the brand analytics is the step of moving in that direction, because it's such a tremendous growing company in the advertising department. They are realizing they probably need to provide more data to make it more interesting for the big blue chip brands to come over.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the blue chip brands, or in fact anyone who's serious about advertising, is used to, as you said, they've been spoiled by Google and Facebook for a long, long time. Says, well, Google for a decade or more, and Facebook obviously is incredibly detailed, and all the stuff. I mean, I suppose it's a bit like the other platforms that I'm familiar with are obviously Amazon, and then if you compare Apple, iTunes. As you know, as a fellow podcaster, Danny, that they give you very, very few analytics indeed. So the big sort of 4 or 5 tech companies vary hugely in the amount of data that they're willing to give away. Apple has a kind of culture of control freakism, I suppose, and so does Amazon, which comes from the culture set by the founders, I guess. But even Amazon is doing it. But as you say, whenever Amazon does something, it does it for a reason. They don't have a slogan like "Do no evil" like the Google guys. Although how much you can believe that, who knows? But they're always strategic. They're always doing it for a reason that is very calculated. So as you said, they're releasing brand analytics. There's a reason behind it, and there's always a sting in the tail with Amazon, which means we are about to start competing with the Madison Avenue guys. You said the big high street brand. So another reason to become really serious about how we do stuff. Go big or go home has never been more true, right?
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So let's get into this then. So we need to make sure we get into this data. The first thing is, a lot of us won't be seeing this on the dashboards, as you said. So just to remind to everyone, under reports, you see it under reports, brand analytics. But why is it that people aren't seeing that? What do we need to do to see this data?
Well, you need brand registry 2.0, which in turn means you're going to need a trademark. Now, we're quite lucky in the UK, as trademarks only take around 8 weeks to process. Now, for instance, I do all my own trademarks. Very straightforward. It's 20 minutes work. Go on, do a search for UK, apply for UK trademarks. And then you've got sets of classes. I mean, you can pay a lawyer, and I'm not trying to take away the money from the lawyers' mouths here, because I know it's a struggle out there for a lawyer and their fees. That was a joke, by the way. But it's pretty simple to do the process. The biggest thing that you come up against is opposition. You know, do you have a brand? It's a sports brand, and you call it JJ Sports or something. You know, straight away you're going to get, with a name like that, you're going to do a search. You're going to find a lot of names that are similar to that may be in your classes and opposed to it. Now, if we take on something like, if you remember, like Web 2.0, we're going back a few years ago, where all the new companies were launched, and they would launch with all of these weird names. Like we had things like, we had Rhythmix, which was IRVMIXX, I think it was. And we're going back about 9 years now. We originally, before that, we had Connected, but it was spelt with a K and ended with a D without the E on the end. But then we had a thing with Kylie Minogue. She done Kylie Connect and stuff. So it all become problematic. So the best way of, if you haven't got a brand already, is registering stuff so it's quite vanilla, you know, in terms of its name. You know, you've got John Smith beer, but John Smith might not do rosary beads. Does that make sense? So by having a word associated with your brand is completely different to the marketplace that you're in, will generate less opposition. So when you start to type those in, you actually find less issues there and less chance of opposition. I think what I'm trying to say is, don't name your brand after your vertical if you can. I know we want that relationship there, but you know, if you make up a name or you use a generic name that's not related, some people might use their surname or their initials and stuff like that. We've done that on a product on one of my partner accounts, because we had a problem with a trademark previous to that and getting brand registry 2.0. But ultimately, it's straightforward. You can go to the website.gov, do a search for it, and then you pick classes, maybe one or two classes that you would want to be in, and you apply for it. I think I paid about £220, and it took about 8 weeks to process. I didn't have any opposition. So you can do these things yourself. And bear in mind, what you got to think about is the logic behind it, right? So do you want an image mark or do you want a word mark? Well, we go for a word mark. You can do image mark as well. Are you getting a trademark to protect you, to defend yourself, utilizing that trademark in that territory? Or is your end goal is to get the suite of tools that are available to you in brand registry? That's what's really important. Because for me, I'm not really bothered about the trademark itself. The trademark is a byproduct to getting me into brand registry 2.0.
A few things to reflect on here. First of all, choosing a decent name. I really like, yes, so I think that the key takeaway for me is simple. Don't make up a name after the name of a vertical. For example, calling your company Sports and Outdoors Limited is obviously going to get a rejection because everyone in the world uses the word sports and outdoors. You can't start suing people for saying, so Danny, I want to talk to you about sports and outdoors, and then get a letter from a lawyer. That would be ridiculous. Whereas if you call it McMillan Sports Limited or VZ Sports Limited, that's obviously not a problem. So
yeah, or it's less of a problem. There may be, do you see where I'm coming from? It's like what you got to do is don't state the obvious there. Step out of your zone. You know, I can't think of a company, but like,
yeah, it makes total sense.
What does Nike mean, and what does Adidas mean? We know them as brands, but what do they mean related to sports? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, well, what's in the name is a very interesting question, and without getting into it too hard, I mean, what they've done, Nike, was a goddess, and there are a lot of Greek goddesses. I looked into this ages ago when I was naming an orchestra of all flipping things, but I looked into all the Greek names. They're all taken because you can brand them to mean what you want. Nobody knows Nike is the goddess of whatever running or whatever she was, but you can call it that because nobody else knows what it means, and you know, or even how to say it, Nike, whatever. So it's very what you call brandable. Same with Amazon. Okay, it's a big river. And that's why Jeff Bezos, because it was significantly bigger than everything else. He was going to call Amazon Abracadabra, and then he realized it sounded like cadaver, meaning dead body. So, you know, these things go through waves, don't they? So as you say, without worrying too much about protection, it opens doors for you. So that's the reason to do it. But Can I just say one other aside before we move on from this? Richard Koch, author of The Star Principle, which is based on the Boston Growth Matrix, says one of the massive errors that people make in naming a brand is to name it after a vertical that they are trying to dominate. So if you're trying to create a new niche, for example, Palm Pilot created a niche called what would you call it? Palm computers, very small computers that fit in your palm. It's kind of pre-smartphones. But actually people got confused because calling it a Palm computer was both the name of the niche, but it was also the name of the brand. Whereas if you call your niche Danny's Sports Gear and you're aiming to create a new niche for people who like to wear breathable socks or something, then you want to call your niche that you dominate breathable socks, and your brand is Danny's Socks or whatever. And then there's a difference between the two. You create a niche and you can dominate. But anyway, so anyone who wants to read more about that, read The Star Principle by Richard Koch, which I'm forever banging on about because I think it's genius. But so there's another good reason to not make your name up after the name of the vertical there.
Yeah.
So just before we move on for the trademark question, you mentioned a couple of things. First of all, classes. For those who haven't done this before, what does that mean in terms of trademark? Again, from the entrepreneur's point of view, rather than a deep lawyerly sort of look. Yeah.
So, I mean, from my point of view, classes is where you want to position yourself in. I think there's about 40 of them because I haven't done it for a while.
Yeah.
Put me on the spot there a little bit. But yeah, but classes, a class might be internet, and under internet that will cover electronic devices, etc., or something could be groceries, and that could be a class. And there might be some, they're just different verticals for different areas. They're very, very broad, these verticals. But what you do is you go through and read all the different classes, and you see where you sit in there, and you associate yourself with the class that's most relevant to your product or service.
Yeah. So, and I guess the point there is that you can call yourself John Smith in the shoewear sort of class. And if somebody else is called John Smith Limited and they sell legal services, there's no conflict, right? Just to put that.
Yeah. But if you want to sell alcohol, you're going to get opposition from John Smith Bitter, aren't you?
Yeah.
For instance.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, it becomes so everyone doesn't need to be paranoid about the fact that John Smith Bitter exists if you're selling shoes, because there's obviously no point of confusion there. So cool. Just thought I'd just touch on those basics for those who haven't done trademarks before. It's not as big a deal as you think, as basically what you're saying.
Should we add another caveat to that as well?
Yeah.
Is that you need to raise a ticket with support, but I still think it's valid. You can use that trademark to get brand registry in the US as well if you're selling on the US market, because it's one of the accepted markets. It may have changed, so raise a ticket first before you do that. But what a lot of people were doing in the US, because it takes 8 months there, was getting a UK trademark because they were selling in the UK as well, and then using that trademark, it was only 8 weeks instead of 8 months, to get brand registry in the US.
Yeah, interesting approach. I mean, my experience, I was speaking with a couple of guys in the 10K Collective meeting yesterday about this very topic, and one of them said they got a UK trademark. They're both UK-based businesses, UK limited companies, and one of them said they'd got a UK trademark and had submitted for brand registry in the USA and got it straight away, and the other one said they'd done exactly the same and got rejected. So there's obviously, like everything in Amazon, right, is never consistent, but it's very much worth getting your EU, I would say not just UK, but European Union-wide trademark, since we can still get that at this point, and then submitting it. And if that doesn't work, then you can go the long, more painful route of going for the US trademark, right? So that strategically, it's obviously there's nothing to lose. Go for the EU trademark first. All right. So thanks for covering the basics of that, again, from not a lawyer's perspective, but the pragmatic man that you are. So we got the end game of clear. It's like basically it's more important to get the trademark to open up the tools than obsess about protection, which I'd agree with. Yeah. So once we've got access to this, assuming we've taken care of all that, we've got brand analytics. Great. So how does this work? You were mentioning various interesting metrics that I haven't come across before. So let's break that down a bit.
Cool. So once you get in there, you'll see an interface, and you'll see it'll just say Amazon search terms, and then at the top of the page you're going to have a download button and a schedule an email, which we'll get into in a little while, and then there's a box for search terms or entering ASINs or products, right? Then underneath that, you're able to set a range of reports. So you've got daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Now, with that aside, the key thing that stands out is that when you arrive, for instance, as I'm looking at it as of today, I'm looking at amazon.co.uk. The number one search term is wireless headphones. Now, it gives you the number one because that is the most searched search term on Amazon as of today in this period, right? It's not telling you how many searches. So how many searches, which would be the search volume, would maybe be 250K searches a month. We don't know that because they don't provide that information. They're just talking about the frequency. The second to that is headphones. The third one is Bluetooth headphones. And then we've got Easter egg. So the random stuff comes in, right? Because obviously we're now, as of recording, we are, sorry to time date this, Michael, we're on the Easter weekend, right? So what this is this is showing you a timeline of events in terms of searches. So just for instance, if you're a new seller, the last thing you want to be selling at this moment on Amazon is anything to do with headphones. Why? Because it's such a congested market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're getting the rank, but not the search volume, as is typical, as in BSR, right? Bestseller rank, but not the volume. Usual Amazon style, really. Yeah.
So what we've got to look at is Amazon does not and has never, as far as I am aware, officially given search volume. We know there's a lot of tools out there. All the tools lost their privilege, not their privileges, but the loop was closed. So there was a little hack that people were doing in AMS, and they were grabbing the search term data, and they managed to run that for about a year. So all of the big name tools now, they don't use the real data. They're using the real data for a year period as of, I think it was 19th of December when Amazon closed the loop. So now what they have to do is take that and then run an algorithm rather, to do predictions.
Yeah.
But they do have a 12-month period and enough sophistication in engineering and tools to get that pretty good. Yeah, it's better than going blind, but it's not 100%.
And also, everything's relative. So if everybody's cut out of the loop on that, none of the search tools are better or worse than others. So, and therefore, anybody else using them is at the same level of advantage or disadvantage, right? So it probably hasn't shifted the market as a whole, I'd imagine.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
So that gives you just an overview of what search frequency is. Yeah. So this is giving me, at the moment, I can see viewing rows, 215,660 rows in total. Okay, which is a huge amount of data to start filtering through. But this is why it's got a search box. Okay, so when you can go in and you can search, you can start to filter down. Before we go into the search box, let me just tell you about the department. So you can filter these down by department. So I'm going to go into baby, for instance, and then I'm going to hit apply. When I hit apply, now I can see the top frequency. This is only showing me 191 rows. So the frequency number one search term within that category, not subcategory, but that category, the wider category of baby, is baby monitor, then it's potty, then it's baby wipes, then it's baby walker, then it's baby buff. Yeah. If I go through the same and go into electronics, TV, wireless headphones, Bluetooth headphones, earphones, iPhone charger cable, mobile phone, iPhone XR cable, and the list continues. That's got 1,816 rows. I don't know the significance of these rows, why they got more or less in each of these departments, but you do have data there to start looking through.
So you've obviously got a hell of a lot of data there. So the main question is, how are you going to find the useful data, and then how do we make sense of it? How do we use it?
Exactly. So for every one of these search terms that you have there, you've got another set of columns, right? So you've got click share and conversion share, plus you get the 3 top performing ASINs on that search term, right?
Okay.
So for instance, if I take it back to, I'm going to just go back to baby. Sorry if I name any private label products here. I won't. This one's Motorola. So baby monitor, number one search term. The first ASIN is, I can go and visit the product page. And this is a Motorola MB PA audio baby monitor. So what that gives me there is I can look at that listing, and to be honest with you, it's Motorola, which is an established brand. Yeah. The bullet points are pretty poor. The imagery is okay, but it's only got 5 images. A bit more work can be done there. They've got a product description, and they've got from the manufacturer. So I think this is A+ content. It's an old one rather than traditional EBC here. And what that does, so that's the first one. If I now go along and look at the second one, number 2 is, I'll tell you now, BT digital audio baby monitor. So big leading brands. Again, the bullet points are really poor. And this has got 3 images, no annotation, no lifestyle images, no nothing. But it is BT. They're up there. You know, they've got a brand. They obviously know what they're doing. They're baked into the system. They've got like their own version of price compare across different ranges with like their own EBC. But I think this is going to be, I think BT must be a 1P rather than the third party provider looking at that listing. You're getting an understanding there is that you can see the search frequency and you get them. You get 3 ASINs to look at, the top ASINs that you can click through and go to. And then you've got the 2 metrics of click share and conversion share. So to break these down, right? So the first one is click share. This is just a percentage of the total clicks that the ASIN received as compared to all the other ASINs in the organic search results. What does that mean? So that's not like a click-through rate to that listing. That's on that search term, Amazon's working out, or as we are led to believe, because it's very limited information, the click share is the percentage overall that gets in comparison to others on that search term in the search results pages. That's what I'm led to believe.
This is an interesting one. So thinking in terms of share, I think is absolutely critical, not necessarily to get paranoid about the competition or to get obsessed with it. But I do think that again, from the strategic point of view, Richard Koch's principle is very simple, which is find a growing market and dominate it. And I think dominating it in revenue terms is the critical metric. But I think other metrics like click share domination also are something to be very, very aware of as part of a sort of dominance or not dominance. So how do you use these metrics? So
so conversion share, this doesn't represent the conversions for that listing independently, like the sales for a given search term. It's the total percentage that each of those ASINs receive for the keyword. A little bit like it's an overall metric, like the click share metric. Yeah. But what you've got here, so if we were to just quickly look at that first listing, Motorola one. So if we look at that click share, just bring it across, this is getting a click share of 16.85%. Okay.
Yeah.
And then a conversion share of 15.25%.
So that's the Motorola baby monitor, right? Okay.
Yeah. But then the number 2, they've got a click share of 12.21%. So you've got 16.85% in position 1, yeah, and then position 2 is 12.21%.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the third one is giving you a click share percentage of 8.50. Now, I would love to know what goes on the first 3 positions, but if you look on any search engine, you'd say the top 3, top 5 takes the bulk, and everyone's an also ran. Do you see what I mean? If you look at, you could actually use you could use a product research tool and look at those on that search term and look at the amount of units sold. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not 100% metric by any stretch, because again, that's algorithmic based and that's predictions, even though there's a lot of smart engineers working on that stuff now.
Yeah.
They're just predictions, but it gives you an idea. You know, might find that number 1 sells 800 units, number 2 sells 600, and number 3 sells 400, but number 4, would do 25. It could be that dramatic, you know, so it could be like it's a 3-horse race or a 2-horse race. If you look at percentage, or if you convert the units sold into percentages.
Yeah. All right.
But again, this is all about extrapolating information. This is not like hard and fast. But if you're looking in these categories, oh yeah, that click share, that looks right. The conversion share there. Now, if I quickly run my product research tool, how many units are they selling? Okay, that gives me a gauge. I get a general idea. Yeah. So you're feeling things out rather than using absolute metrics.
Yeah, of course. What's the conversion share of interest, first of all, for the Motorola one, the BT, whatever? How does that compare to the click share? I'm just interested to know.
Let me go back through these for you.
I'm going to be interested to know how we actually make any sense of these metrics, because metrics is one thing, but using them is the question, right?
Yeah. So these are just things, what you're doing is just eyeballing. You're not going to make sense of most of these things. It's just your intuition, having a bit of data, okay, that's doing well, that's doing there, but because you're looking at listings, go, well, I can improve things there. Like, but what you can't go up against really, unless you've got deep pockets, is that BT and Motorola are big established brands, so you've got a little bit of a fight on your hands.
Absolutely.
The idea is you'll do all the extrapolation of data and information and using your eyes to get a gauge of things on product research, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Okay.
The conversion share on that one is 15.25.
That's the Motorola one, is it?
Yeah. The second one, which is odd, the conversion is 18.64. But bear in mind, this is based on a search term. Yeah. So this is 18.64. And then the third one is 6.78. So it's odd that you'd think the conversion share, would you, of number 2 would be higher. Because it's higher, that would be in position number 1 because it's 3% or so higher.
Yeah.
So this is where you've got to read between the lines because you can't use this as absolute.
I mean, the first thing you can say from this is that first of all, the click share does not equal the conversion share, which makes sense because getting a click is one thing, but getting the sale is another. And also that there's quite a difference from this data, isn't there? So the number 2 gets only 12% of the clicks, but gets 18% of the conversions. So they're obviously converting better than the first one. So I would go back and go, okay, well, what factors on page are helping them convert? And then, of course, there's the brand, right? Which is another factor we've got to take into account. So, yeah, interesting. So Danny, we've got lots of, data, some of which is, and typical Amazon, they're presenting data to shut people up like the Indian authorities and kind of give people a feel of a bit of control. But the reality is, as usual, it requires a lot of sweat to make sense of it. So what practical way do we use this data as sellers?
Exactly. So basically, Amazon's giving you that. They're showing a little bit of anchor, as I like to say.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They're showing you a bit, but not too much. You're going to like it, but not a lot.
Yeah, well put. Show a bit of ankle. Yeah. Entice you in.
Yeah. Entice you in. Let's get you in through the door. Okay. So the next stage you can use it for, what I like to, is the starting process. And I'm going to put a caveat here. This does not replace any search tool. So before anyone says, yeah, but you can't use that as a search, this is what I would recommend for using it for, is a discovery, right? So because you've got all of these search terms, you can download these as a .csv file, flick through the report and start looking for words that are just random, but like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 frequency back. So you're not trying to go after the ones in the top positions. And you might, if you scroll down, you might find stuff that's suitable and go, oh, right, what's that? And then click through to that and go, oh, I like that product. Click on it again. And then when that takes you to the search pages, you can then run one of your tools and say, well, is there anything going on in this category? Yeah. So what you're trying to do is you're not going after the top frequency searches. You're going to that mid-tier and see if you can find a little bit of discovery. So it's another tool for you just to click around in and get some ideas for new products. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you can individually search for keywords. So let's say, for instance, we'll stick with the baby category, right? While I'm in the baby category, I've selected it by department. I could then go and do a search and let me just put baby in again. So instead of baby monitor, potty, baby walker, baby bath, changing mats, Moses basket, travel cot, right? Let's just say I only want to find keywords with just the word baby in. So I've got 291 rows at the moment. But when I hit apply, I'm down to 84 rows. And now I get my frequency. It says baby monitor number 1. The second keyword showing me is baby wipes, but that's in position number 3. Baby walkers in 4, baby baths 5, but then baby bouncer is in 11. Now, if I scroll further down to the bottom of the list, at 290, I've got baby bath thermometers, right? So if I click through and have a quick look at that on that search term, I'm going to quickly run a tool. It's got 2,545 searches. But in terms of sales, there's a range of sales. You've got 126, like these are sponsored ads at the top, 126, 287, and 9. And then the number one's doing 1,071, but it's a very low price one, 395. Then you've got 527, 396, 287, 113, 288, 287. So smaller market, doing 7 to 10 units a day.
Is this pounds or dollars? By this is pounds, is it?
This is in pounds.
I was going to say this sounds like
So
a small market for the US. Yeah.
it is a small market, but it just gives you an idea because like me just explaining that took 2 minutes, say.
Yeah.
But you flicking through that takes 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the idea is you're going to steam through these pretty quick. You're just trying to get a feel for what's going on in those markets. Let's try another one now. So baby shampoo. Let's have a look at
Live
baby
product
shampoo.
research. I like it.
Yeah. Guys, everyone at home, don't select any products and then blame me if they don't work. I'm just doing these as a demonstration.
Do not go out and buy baby bath thermometers en masse before doing
Yeah,
your own
again,
research.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so baby shampoo is another one that is low on the search volume, 689. So I've probably gone too far back there. There was only 84 rows. So let me take it back to 179. Let's meet in the middle. So car, mirror, baby, rear view. That's a long old search term, right?
So
I shouldn't imagine that.
Baby, what was it? Car, mirror,
baby, rear view.
rear view.
Right? So I don't give much love on that until we check. Again, that's 1,780 search terms. But what you can do is that you can pick the bestseller, go back in, because you can go back and do reverse acing at this point. But it's only going to give you 3 search terms. It's quite limited. But if I was to go and do... Yeah, but car, baby, rear view mirror, I'm going to take the number 1 acing and I'll just right click and duplicate. So I'm opening a new tab to keep where I am. And then I'm going to do a reverse acing on that number 1. And then what that will do is then that can give me some search terms. Now this is interesting. Normally it gives you 3, but this one's given me 17. So that's quite nice. I mean, there was before, maybe they've upped the limit, but you've got baby car mirror, baby rear view, baby mirror car mirror, baby mirror. Okay, so there's some exact match and phrase match ones here. So car baby mirror, car seat mirror rear facing, rear viewing mirror for baby. Now, obviously, the frequencies of these are going to jump like 4,000, 16,000, 17,000, 23,000. But this is the reverse acing on the number 1 product. That's giving you a list of keywords because you can now then click on those again. So let me just do baby mirror car, let's do baby car mirror, which is the shortened version. Then run the search tool on that.
So it's another source of keywords / finding niches from what you're saying. It's basically,
just all it is again, this one's a bit better. It's 4,864. It depends on what you're doing. If you are type of company that go wide with your products, so you might have 100 products selling 5 units a day, right? Or you might have a batch of 20 products where you're trying to go after 60, 70, 80 units a day. It depends on your model.
Yeah.
This may be a great model to expand on your market. Say you're manufacturing in the UK. I do on one of my brands, right? So my plan in the UK is to roll out more products that are under the fly below the surface, So it'll allow me to expand on products here in the UK in the category that I am in relatively cheaply. But it means I can sell less units. Then I'm not chasing that whole thing being dominated by, black hatters coming in and trashing the market. Because they're not going to be interested in selling 5 or 10 units a day. As long as the margin's good, as long as there's got some decent margins in there and you've got decent manufacturing, a quick turnaround and terms in place, a model like this could work if you're outside the traditional, put it in a shoebox, sell minimum of 20 units a day, burn a load of cash on PPC.
Yeah.
Make sense? So everyone's going to have their own way of doing things.
Okay. So this gives you some extra works of getting keywords, particularly longer tail keywords, and as you say, it depends on your business model how much that ties in with what you're doing. But at the very least, it's going to give you some more keywords that you can go after with existing products, if nothing else, I guess. But let's look into this seasonality you were talking about, because that sounds interesting to me as well. Because that's obviously something that's really hard to get a handle on, but very, very important.
Okay, so to give an example of seasonality, let me just go to all departments. Just reload the page. Got to remember is make sure you're in department of amazon.co.uk rather than the actual categories. So what you could do is you can set your report in, hopefully, as we're doing this live, I can go and set from October 1st to the 31st of October.
Drum roll here. because we're doing this live on camera. Well, it's not actually on camera. If you're listening to the podcast, there is a video version of this, but we're not able to share this because Dan is obviously looking at one of his own accounts, so we can't be sharing that data with the world.
GDPR.
Yeah. So, Dan, if you could summarize for us what your approach is to get the seasonal variations out of the data, because obviously that's critical in terms of, how much stock to order for Christmas, how much you expect to still have in January, February, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example would be is if you go and use the search table in there in terms of the reporting, take the range back, you should be able to say, for instance, let's talk Halloween. You want to know what products to sell for Halloween for next year. If you set that from the 25th of September to the 31st of October, what happens, it will show you results in that period. So what you'll probably find is Halloween costume for women, Halloween costumes for men, and Halloween costumes for girls, right? They're the main top search terms in the top 10 from memory.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then you know what Halloween products that you should be looking at selling in that time period. Yeah. So you could you go back to use Halloween as an example as well, where you use that search term, as we mentioned earlier, and get a list of search terms that relate to Halloween. That's another way of doing it as well. Okay. Again, it's going to show you frequency, but frequency is pretty handy because if it's in the top 10, top 20 on Amazon, what you don't want to do is go and get a load of Halloween cups and sell those and Halloween T-shirts, only to find that it's costumes that people want, and more predominantly for women, girls, and for men. They're the kind of products you want to focus on rather than alternative Halloween products that are not going to sell. Okay. So you're using that as a predictor.
Okay. So in other words, you can see the historical performance of the search, at least the kind of search.
The frequency.
Frequency, okay.
Yeah.
And then you can go back and make sure that you know that you're aiming for the right kind of product. So Halloween's obviously big, but what is big? What is it that you're aiming at here? And Halloween costumes, for example, being more than Halloween cups. All right, interesting.
Yeah.
So it feels to me like this is one of those tools that takes a bit of getting used to using and finding ways of using in conjunction with other tools rather than being a sort of magic bullet in and of itself, which is obviously makes a lot of sense, as a lot of things work that way anyway. So this is part of the broader picture, I suppose, isn't it, of you, as I suppose you call it, technical marketing on your show, which makes sense to me that you very much are averse with this technical stuff. And I know that's a big thrust of what you do at Seller Sessions, and that's going to be a big thrust of what you're going to be doing at the conference that's coming up. Now, I know you're not a guy to blow his own trumpet, but I'm going to do it for you because I do know that there's plenty of events on in London where they bring in one guru or somebody, and sometimes they're very good, and it's quite pricey, but you get some good input, but it's just the one person's viewpoint. What we're a little bit starved for in this country is people who can make sense of the technical data and either boil it down for those of us who aren't quite so technical. I probably include myself. I'm okay with numbers, not amazing. Or they can synthesize it into a bigger picture set of strategies. So tell us a little bit more about that conference, because I do think it is going to be important for those of us who sell in the UK, particularly, or Europe-based people.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, this isn't about making money. So the tickets, we've sold all the supers and the early birds now. The tickets are £319, like the general admission. Now, most events in the UK and in London will have one international speaker and they'll charge you £300. I'm bringing in 6. I'm flying in 6 international speakers, and the focus is in and around education. So we're in a keynote theatre, and it's structured so that it's got a tiered seating arena, and when you sit down, you've got a workspace in front of you. It's important that you need to learn and get comprehension. Like in my younger years, I was a teacher. I trained as a teacher, not as a full-time classroom teacher in terms of primary school. I used to teach audio engineering. So I had, in the music business, record production software and stuff like that. So you had to take complex concepts and break them down. That's the first part of it. The second part of it, I only wanted to bring in people that can provide you comprehension. Now, there's one thing to have knowledge, and there's one thing, and there's another how to get it across. So when I was teaching audio engineering, I wasn't the best mix engineer in the college but I was one of the better teachers because I knew how to get that across. So you'd have phenomenal talent, but didn't have the skill set to get that across to the students so they can excel. And so I wanted to round up key people that, one, they've got morals, because we are in an industry where you've got a lot of fly-by-nights, and they want to show you the 3 little pony tricks, and they want you to get you onto a desert island and all the bullshit. I wanted no-nonsense, straightforward people that are kind people that are in our industry. So I've got Ivan Demirov, who breaks a lot of ground. He runs the Orange Hatch marketing group. He's probably the best mind in our game, I believe, in terms of advanced marketing. A lot of people copy him without attribution. Also got Anthony Lee. He's been doing ranking since 2014. He blew my mind when I met him in 2015. I've still got his blog posts today that I can cut and paste into a document of, like, he was the first guy I've gone, wow, you can do all of this shit on Amazon. It was incredible. Then we've got Lee Rand Hirschkorn as well. He's a great all-round technical marketer. I've also got Casey Goss from Viral Launch, which I'm really pleased about as well. And we've also got Paul Harvey. Now, he's South African. He spent a lot of time in the UK, but anyone knows Paul. He used to be a former school teacher, and he's very well-versed and get across education. And then we've got Athena Severi. She does China Magic and stuff. So she's going to be help with, like, announcing all the speakers, and she's going to co-host with me on a day. I'll be doing a presentation as well. But the key thing was as well, I looked around the landscape, and I felt we need to be spoilt like they are in the US. And in the UK, I think we're undernourished on the UK on, one, the price of the tickets for what you get. So if you're going to get one speaker coming who's going to be there for the day, that's great, but you don't get that diversity. I wanted to give value for money by bringing in 6. So I wanted, without sounding arrogant, set the bar in the UK, because I believe in the UK people deserve a good education alongside what they're getting in the US. I want us to be on par, and someone's going to have to put their money up and risk it, and that's what I've done. I put my money up to break even on this event for a one-day event that's like 7 months to put together, to help set the bar here, so that people know what a standard is. It's like, that's the standard we've all got to work to. It's our duty in the community to do that. And so for me, hopefully next year after, we make money, we'll build it as a brand, people love it, it'll grow as a business and everything else. But we've got no sponsors at this stage. And one of the lead sponsors that I was going to have, I walked away from the deal, was worth $5,000, for instance, because the principle for me was that, because of the package that they offer, the interest rate on their package was like 60%. And I couldn't look an Amazon seller in the face and have that as the lead brand sponsor. So I just want it to be uncluttered, and I just want it to be a good day of education for people to learn. And I want them to walk away with an experience, and hopefully that sets the tone moving forward. So when people put an events on, they know if they're going to charge £300 or whatever it's going to be, you've got to raise your game. You've got to bring the right people in with the right credibility, because I think some of the other events, we get less of them now, but we've had so many Ponzi scheme type of events, where they sell you the mindset events, where they get you to jump up and down and shake each other's hand and then get your credit card out later because they're trying to sell you these expensive coaching courses and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get rid of all of that and do something that I'm passionate about, and hopefully benefit our community in the UK.
So I couldn't agree more, Danny, with what you were saying about all these schemes. I mean, there are so many things out there that are a little bit overpriced, but then I think there are very much fewer of them than there used to be. But there were those events where you get a feel-good atmosphere, particularly for newbies, really. They get a feel-good atmosphere. They charge them $2,000 for a weekend or 3 days type event, which may or may not be okay. But then they charge them $5,000 to go and be in a quotes mastermind with people who are absolute newbies. So there's going to be very little value. So I think that sort of stuff is going by the by, but I'm very happy that you're part of making sure that it stays in the past, but also upping the bar even more so that you're having incredible value for 6 top speakers. I mean, people like Liren and Casey Gores are not easy people to track down, and fantastic value. And Paul Harvey as well. I mean, you know, I know him as well, and we both know him pretty well, and he's not just got a great education background.
I've still got to fly him in from
South Africa, indeed.
South Africa. So it's not like he's in the UK. He's still flying in. Yeah.
Absolutely. But he also is an expert on chatbots, as well as, having sold a couple of his own businesses as well. So he's a serious player, I think.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people like yourself, very knowledgeable and very low ego, just a teacher. I didn't know you had a teaching background, actually, Danny, but that makes sense. I do as well. So I guess people with a teaching background, you get a certain set of values instilled in you, don't you, when you teach, that you've got to be honest, authentic, and
the
actually
other
help
thing with
people.
that, and you know this, Michael, it separates the men from the boys and the ladies from the girls, if you like. If you've got to be on your feet and hold a room for 6 hours, you need to keep people engaged. That's a skill. And it's
absolutely.
also preparation as well. And one of the things about teaching, if you do not practice and you do not research and get yourself prepared before your classes, you will get burnt in the classroom. And it's a lonely space in there, even if it's 10 or 15 people and there's a dead silence and everyone's disappointed because they know you don't know your skill, like you haven't prepared yourself. It looks really bad on you, and that day can be horrifically long. So I think when you've done those kind of things and you've had them darkest hours just before dawn, when it comes to, say, Amazon entrepreneurs who want to flog courses or do events and focus on the selling without the education, that's where they start to get undone, because there's only so much spiel you can go through on stage before people go, where's the content?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about actionable content, right? It's about stuff that people can go away, implement in their businesses, and make stuff happen. And I think from that point of view, and you and I, we're approaching things in somewhat different ways, but with the 10K Collective and the £1 Million Mastermind, that's exactly why I created those, because it turns out, it's something of an experiment at the beginning, and then it turned out that people were getting great value because you could tell they went away, they did stuff, they made money, and they came back and said, that made cash, let's do more of the same. So I think that's the acid test, right? Is if people can go away, do what you teach and make money from it, then you can sell it all day long with a good conscience. So I'm just to do a final plug for this stuff. I mean, I have to say, by the way, I'm not an affiliate. I'm not getting any money from Danny for this, but I'm going to Danny's conference, as are most of the smart marketers that I know.
And just to say that you actually paid a full price, like super early bird ticket, didn't you?
Yeah, I know, but I paid real money because I know there's real value in this. You've got to connect with the top people in your industry, and with somebody who's you're Mr. Anti-affiliate, Danny. I mean, I've never met anyone who's so well placed to do 1 million affiliate deals who refuses to do so. So I can vouch for this man's integrity. I'm not making a penny off any of the conversations we ever have. So, as somebody who obviously I have affiliate relationships with other people because I'm less purist than you, but on the other hand, whatever way you do it, you've got to have integrity, but you are absolutely at the top of the integrity list for me in the Amazon game. So
thank you.
That shows, ladies and gents, that this is a place you should at least check it out. If people want to check it out, Danny, small plug, I'm doing the plugging for you because I know you're so anti-sales, you won't do it. So I'm going to do it for you. Somebody's got to make sure you fill your conference, my friend. So what is the URL and what are the places people can find out more about this?
If they go to sellersessions.com / landing page, there breaks down everything that you would need. Show, like, if you're international, you've got hotels and stuff like that. And you should be able to get tickets. They'll break down the agenda for the day and the location, which is over in London, over in Aldgate. So it's just one stop from Liverpool Street.
Great. Okay.
Aldgate's very quiet on the weekend because it's a business district. So it's quite nice and smooth. People getting off the tube and then walk across the road to the venue. Nice and easy to get to.
And what was that URL again? It's sellersessions.com
/live.
/live. Okay. Sessions.com /live. We'll put a link in the show notes as ever, ladies and gents. So just remains to say, Danny, thank you very much for helping walk us through some of the mysteries of brand analytics. I mean, it sounds like anything else from Amazon. It's a double-edged sword. It's got to be interpreted. You've got to sweat through the data, but it is another place to get some actual real data, however, obfuscated by Amazon, from which to then start to make intelligent data-led decisions, which I know is you're all about the data. And so that's very helpful. If nothing else, you've demystified some of the process of getting a trademark in the UK, and it's actually pretty straightforward. So that's reassuring, and that's a good kick in the pants to anybody, or kick in the trousers, depending which side of the Atlantic you're listening from, to actually get on with trademarking and not make a big deal out of something that could be pretty straightforward. So many, many thanks for, as ever, a very interesting trip through the inner workings of Amazon. And thanks for letting us know about your conference as well. And we'll get you back on a little bit closer to the time if we can, Danny, to have a bit of a chat about that, because I think it's an event that people should be strongly considering being at to be really connected with the cutting edge of Amazon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.